Okay, we'll start in the first row here. GOTV.
Secretary President of Pakistan visited, he attended NATO summit in Chicago, but seems, according to our information, nothing was solved. Neither supply route was open, nor you had meeting with him. And with Pakistani perspective, this visit of President of Pakistan was no more than, it was useless to go to Chicago for him. Can you comment on that?
First of all, I appreciate that President Zardari attended our meeting in Chicago. I called him and invited him to participate in the meeting because we want a positive dialogue with Pakistan. It was definitely not useless. On the contrary, President Zardari confirmed that it is his clear intention, it is the intention of Pakistan to engage positively in finding solutions to the conflict in Afghanistan. As you all know, we still have an unsolved problem as regards transit routes through Pakistan. I still hope to see a solution to that problem in the very near future.
German TV.
Maybe a follow-up to the Pakistani questioner before. How far are the talks now? Is there any progress? Have you just agreed on that you can use Pakistan transit routes to bring the troops home? Is it just a matter of money, or what is the question you have to deal with here? This is the first question. The second one would be, Hollande was in Chicago and he was in Afghanistan now. Is the figure more clear now? How many soldiers will he take back now from Afghanistan? Will this be 1,000 or 2,000, or is this still to be figured out?
First on Pakistan, I'm not going to comment on details in negotiations with Pakistan. I'll just reiterate that I still hope that a solution can be found in the very near future. At the same time, let me stress that we actually concluded a number of very important transit agreements at the Chicago summit, and of course that will contribute in a very positive way to our operation in Afghanistan as we gradually wind down our combat operation towards the end of 2014. As regards France, I would leave it to the French authorities to comment on concrete figures. I have taken note of the very clear statements from President Hollande, also expressed in clear terms at the Chicago summit, that France will stay committed to the ISAF operation and continue to contribute to our training mission throughout the transition period towards the end of 2014, and I highly appreciate that.
German radio.
My name is Christoph Brössel, German Public Radio. Two questions. The first one, you mentioned the reverse transit, 3 contracts. Does NATO pay for the reverse transit? And the second question is on smart defense, the next steps. Probably you can give me the next steps for the smart defense initiative in regard to the fact that some countries, for example Germany, always have to give green light when they would like to participate participate or send troops somewhere, or if they would like to participate in a mission? Thank you.
First, I do not comment on details in the transit arrangements, but it goes without saying that we have concluded agreements that are of mutual satisfaction of the involved partners. As regards the next steps, as far as smart defense is concerned, we decided at the Chicago summit to initiate some follow-up work. First of all, we will continue to develop multinational projects. And secondly, of course, we will have to find solutions to a number of issues. One of them is the topic you mentioned, how we can presume the availability of multinational capabilities. But based on what I heard at the Chicago summit, I'm quite optimistic that there is a strong political commitment to actually use and deploy multinational capabilities when it is needed. Obviously, and that goes without saying, it is at the end of the day a national decision whether a country wants to participate in a military operation and deploy military assets and how. But I think all nations realize that if in the future we will rely increasingly on multinational capabilities, we also have to enhance the presumption that such multinational capabilities will actually be available. If we don't enhance that presumption, then of course some countries will be reluctant to actually invest their resources in multinational capabilities. All nations are very much aware of that aspect, and all 28 allies endorsed the concept of smart defense at the Chicago summit, knowing that this is a challenge, and based on that, I'm sure there is a strong political commitment to actually deploy assets, also multinational assets, when needed.
AP?
Secretary General, could you elaborate on what exactly has been done on the follow-up mission in Afghanistan since the Chicago summit, and what's the time frame for coming up with a definitive proposal?
We have started preparations already. It's work in progress. I would be reluctant to present any exact deadline. Ultimately, of course, the deadline is by the end of 2014, but for planning reasons, understandable planning reasons, we need clarification sometime before that. But having said that, it's also a fact that the exact profile of the post-2014 mission will very much depend on the actual security situation on the ground as we approach the end of 2014. And this is a reason why I would be reluctant to present to you any exact deadline. But I can assure you that we have started preparations already, and as you know, the core of that post-2014 mission will be a training mission with the aim to train, assist, give advice to the Afghan security forces.
Al-Hayat?
Oui, Monsieur le Secrétaire Général, j'ai deux questions concernant l'intention de retrait de quelques forces de vos alliés de l'Afghanistan et le nombre, il ne fait qu'augmenter. On a 5 ou 6 pays maintenant qui formulent l'intention de retirer leurs troupes. Certains disent que cela est dû primordialement à la question de sécurité et la vie de leurs soldats, mais d'autres évoquent aussi la question du budget de l'OTAN. Il semble qu'il y ait une crise quelque part financière de l'OTAN. Comment expliquez-vous cela? Deuxième question, quelques mois après la chute du régime de Kadhafi, on attend toujours le rapport final des opérations de l'OTAN en Libye. Qu'est-ce qu'il en est?
Il n'y a pas une crise financière au sein de l'OTAN. Évidemment, il y a un défi économique, mais je pense que nous avons trouvé une réponse à cette question au sommet à Chicago. Et cette solution s'appelle la défense intelligente. Nous allons promouvoir la coopération multilatérale et nous avons, comme vous le savez, nous avons adopté un nombre des projets concrets multinationaux. Et c'est une réponse très convaincante. C'est la voie à suivre pour éviter que la crise financière sera une crise de sécurité. Donc, il n'y a pas une crise financière au sein de l'OTAN, mais un défi économique, et nous avons trouvé une solution. Pourriez-vous répéter la question en Libye?
Après quelques mois, voilà des mois que le régime de Kadhafi a chuté, on n'a pas encore eu le rapport final des opérations de l'OTAN en Libye. Pourquoi?
Oui, mais nous avons reporté à l'ONU selon les règles.
Yes, Brooks Signer, Jane's Defense. Yes, Secretary General, question about the common funding. The purchase of the AGS, as we all know, was achieved with some political difficulty, the financial mechanism, and that is a group of 17, now 18 nations are buying the equipment, and a large part of the operating costs will come out of NATO's common funding. However, this model is not a rule. It's an exception so far to the way SIP works. So my question to you is, for smart defense to move ahead, if you're going to pursue more of these multinational models, don't you need to reform, or do the 28 intend to reform the way that funding is used within the common, the SIP fund? Thank you.
Yes, definitely. And that's also one of the follow-up works we adopted in Chicago. We will look closer into how our funding mechanisms work to make sure that they are fit for purpose, that they work efficiently, that we make the most efficient use of resources, that they are completely transparent. So yes, in order to promote multinational projects, we also need to reform our funding mechanisms so that all allies feel confident that multinational projects and common funding are efficient ways of doing defense business.
That does mean a loosening of the rules, in a word.
No, you might well argue that it's also strengthening rules to make sure that things work transparently and efficiently.
Thank you. I'm here. Yep, now it's okay. The last week, KFOR started operations in the north to remove the barricades, and the KFOR soldiers were attacked by local Serbs or whoever they were. The statements coming from the Serbian officials was that by this KFOR is endangering peace and provoking situation there, and that for each barricade KFOR removes, Serbs can build 2 new. So is KFOR going to continue the game removing barricades in order to see the new ones, or this time really KFOR is determined to ensure freedom of movement in the north of Kosovo?
3 points. Firstly, our troops acted in self-defense. Secondly, I would commend the way in which our soldiers handled the situation. And thirdly, I can assure you that KFOR will continue to implement the United Nations mandate to maintain a secure environment and ensure the freedom of movement. And KFOR conducts its operations in a status neutral and impartial way. I strongly regret that we saw violence during recent days. I urge all parties to do their utmost to stop violence and ensure a peaceful solution to the problems in the region. But I can assure you that KFOR will continue to implement fully the United Nations mandate.
We have another question also from Kosovo Media.
Yes, the newly elected Serbian president is sending very dubious signals to the region, telling Croats that there are a few towns there that belong to Serbs, denying genocide in Srebrenica, telling Montenegros that they are the same as Serbs, and he's a person who considered NATO as a criminal organization during the airstrikes in 1999. From the perspective of having a mission in Kosovo, what do you think? Should you be more cautious now that there is a new political elite in Belgrade?
First of all, on Srebrenica, I think it's for the International Tribunal in The Hague to make the legal judgment, what they have done already. In general, of course, we monitor the situation closely. For my part, I will not rely with all respect, on media reports of a statement from the newly elected Serbian president. I hope we can continue the positive dialogue we have had with Serbia. My vision as regards the Western Balkans is very clear. I would like to see all countries in the region integrated in the Euro-Atlantic structures, the European Union and NATO, and I also hope in that respect to see improvements in the relationship between Serbia and NATO.
Belgian News Agency.
Yes, Gérard Gaudin, Belgian News Agency. I have 2 questions concerning the reverse transit. The first is, now you have an agreement with 3 neighboring countries of Afghanistan. What with further north? Have you also an agreement with for the reverse transit with Russia? First, and secondly, are there some limitation restrictions? For instance, non-lethal equipments and so on.
Yeah, in general, let me say that we do not comment on the concrete content of these transit arrangements. With Russia, we have a transit arrangement, a reverse transit arrangement already. And the fact that we have now concluded a transit arrangement, three concrete transit arrangement with Central Asian countries at the Chicago summit will make the use of the Russian transit arrangement even more effective.
Japanese media.
Thank you very much. Japanese Daily Mainichi. My question is concerning a nuclear weapon. In Chicago, you declared NAC will task appropriate committee to develop a concept, including the case to reduce the reliance on non-strategic nuclear weapons. Could you elaborate this idea? Is there any concrete agenda, or is there any deadline, or what is the relationship of this committee discussion and the negotiation between the US and Russia?
There's no hidden agenda. You have seen everything clearly expressed in the Defense and Deterrence Posture Review that was published, was adopted and published at the Chicago summit. The general principles are very clear. We have reiterated what NATO countries signed already in 1970 in the Non-Proliferation Treaty, that the grand vision is a world without nuclear weapons. But we also clearly state that as long as nuclear weapons exist, NATO will remain a nuclear alliance. We have indicated in the Defense Posture Review that we would very much like to see a reduction in the tactical nuclear weapons, but we have added that in that case we also had to ensure the right balance, that such reductions take place in a balanced way. And the fact is that NATO nuclear powers have reduced their stockpiles of nuclear weapons significantly since the end of the Cold War, while we still have quite a number of Russian nuclear weapons. So that disparity has to be taken into account. So in case we could reach agreement on a balanced reduction in the number of nuclear weapons, yes, we are in favor of that. We have clearly indicated that in the Defense and Deterrence Posture Review. But you can read everything in the Defense and Deterrence Posture Review. There's no hidden agenda.
We have time for one last question. AFP?
Yeah, but Russia, do you still hope to meet Mr. Putin in the next few weeks? Or do you think he doesn't plan or want to meet you right now?
We have not discussed the concrete calendar issues. As you may recall, I called him and congratulated him on his election a few days after the presidential elections, and we agreed to meet bilaterally in a not too distant future. But of course, at the end of the day, it's also a calendar question, and no date has been fixed yet.
Thank you very much.